Just ahead of our CFL 2.0 discussion, Jim Hopson, Chris Getzlaf in studio with us. John Payne passing this week, Jim. I don't know if you saw the photo in the Leader Post. It was of him and you. You obviously saw it. And the Payne family, I guess, provided that photo to the Leader Post. So people were asking, if Jim's coming on, can he give us a John Payne story, your head coach with the Riders?
I can. By the way, I had a lot of friends say that photo was Photoshopped because right. I looked good and I had hair.
You look lean, yeah.
But anyway, John was a great guy. He was very straight-laced, though, didn't swear. But he could get upset, and when he got upset, he'd say "Dad gum." That was the strongest thing he'd do.
Right.
He was kind of interesting because every game we could count on him at halftime to come over to our corner, because Ronnie was over there and George and all. It was smoker corner. All the guys, he'd come over and he'd bum a cigarette. Of course, this is the old days. You know, we're in the old Mosaic Taylor Field, and guys would carry the cigarettes in their helmets when they got off the bus that went in there. So it was a different time. But he was a good guy. He took credit or took the blame for making some bad decisions in that Grey Cup game we lost, and he was a stand-up guy. I enjoyed him, and I think he lived here too. He was here about 6 years, he and his family, and so they were part of the community. Huh?
Yep, he was as southern as it got, though, right? And just a tiny little guy.
Oklahoma, yeah, and he was an offensive lineman in college. He was not a big man, but
that is old school.
Little, little fire plug. Yeah,
I want to get both you guys' opinions on CFL 2.0, and I still believe, I know they're watching in CFL headquarters right now in Toronto. This will be the best show for the CFL, but we're not always going to agree with everything that they do. And I'm coming around on CFL 2.0. I just didn't like the European invasion into the Western League, but it's worked. And it's certainly worked for the National Hockey League, the NBA, and all the rest. And that's the goal for Randy Ambrosie with the CFL. Jim, I'll start with you. Your take on this initiative.
I think it's a good initiative. I give Randy credit. One of our challenges, I think, in the CFL over the last few years is we haven't reached out enough to new Canadians and made the tent bigger. You look at the Raptor fans, and it's a multicultural. It's just very diverse, and we don't see that as much in the CFL. And I think it's important that we need to identify and bring in new fans, new Canadians, and so on to be part of it. And I think Randy is trying to do something that will create that interest, create that buzz, grow the game. A lot of us just don't realize how much interest there is in places like Mexico and Europe in football. And I talked to Kenny Miller. Kenny went over and coached in Italy for a couple years.
He's a big fan of it. Yeah.
It's just crazy. He said, and these guys are all working and practicing at night and so on. But still, it's something we have to do. We've got to find a way to grow the game outside of the traditional ways that we've done it in the past. So I give him credit for that, and hopefully this is going to pay some dividends.
What do you think, Getz?
I agree. Actually, I think that it's a great way to try to expand our market. I mean, when you're reaching out and you're getting a fan base, I mean, it's obviously going to start probably pretty small, but I think that that's something that can grow at an exponential rate. So I think the biggest thing is that I don't want to see it detract from the Canadian talent. I mean, because there was a small talk about that maybe...
You had some strong thoughts on the ratio, yeah.
I definitely do have strong thoughts on the ratio, and we'll see how the new rule kind of takes effect this season, whether or not they are able to grasp the American going in for a Canadian when they have years of experience.
So in the new collective bargaining agreement, there's one exempt spot on the roster for a global player. And the only problem is, for me, when the Europeans came over to the NHL in 1988, Sergei Makarov, I think, scored 42 goals. He was the Rookie of the Year. It was a seamless transition with European players. They were good enough. I don't think these European players are good enough. That's the difference in the CFL right now. Like Max Zimmerman, I was watching him when I went to training camp, watched him last week in Calgary, tried to watch him last night. He played only special teams. Like, Jim, the talent level isn't even. That's the only issue that I have.
No, I agree with you. It's going to be a while. They need exposure. They need opportunity. But I'm like Chris when it comes to Canadian content. I really was disappointed when they started talking about dropping the ratio. Chris, played a long time in the league, and he can tell you that at a certain point, the players, forget who's a Canadian and who's American. You're a player, and either you can play or you can't play. And a lot of the Americans come up, they don't really understand the ratio thing, and they look at Getz and say, he's a football player, and if you can play, you can play. So I think we need that opportunity. We need those role models. We need that opportunity to move from college into the pros here, and our greatest heroes in Saskatchewan are Canadians in many ways. Roger Aldag, Gene Makowski, and on, and of course Ronnie and George. But Ronnie played as a Canadian. I don't have a problem with that. You play up here for a number of years, same team, give you that opportunity, keeps you in the community. I can live with that, but I just don't understand why we feel like we have to get more Americans in order to be better.
Isn't that in the new CBA too? If you play 4 years now, you count as a Canadian.
Yeah.
What do you think about
3
that?
years with the same team, or 4 years in the CFL.
So what do you think about that?
I think it's I like aspects of it. I mean, the whole replacement part of it, I think, is going to bring a lot of gray area when it comes to the game. I mean, is the Canadian hurt that now that they're bringing in this American replacement during the game? Exactly.
They're gonna do.
I just think it opens the door for teams to take advantage of that rule in their minds that they're putting a better player on the field.
Hey, we got 2 minutes left. Clark's telling me in this segment with you, Getz. So your brother, of course, you're watching the Anaheim Ducks real closely. They're looking for a coach, are they not? Or did they hire?
I believe they're on the look for a coach.
Yeah. So the Ducks. Talk to me about the Ducks. How are they going to be next year? And how's your brother doing?
Brother's doing great. Loving the off season with the family. I mean, obviously it was a tough year. They went through multiple injuries, and I think that they just made the coaching decision a lot too late because they played pretty well after that. But when it comes to the team, I think that they're going to be fine. They got some young talent that's coming up. I mean, Steele himself, he looked pretty good when he got his opportunity. And Max Jones, he's another real young speedster who's mixing it up out there. So I think the team's going to be pretty good. They have a stud goaltender. It's just going to be interesting what happens with, Perry or Kessler going forward. I mean, I don't know if Kessler's truly over, his surgeries and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. And, Perry's been a question mark for a few years. So hopefully he's either able to turn it around or they go a different direction if they can and bring in some other guys.
That's my question. Is the window still open or is it closing a little bit? Because it's been some good times in Anaheim.
Yeah, I think it's still open, mainly because they do have a lot of young talent that is there. I mean, your goalie's right in the prime. I mean, he's, 22, 23, and playing phenomenal. So, and they got a pretty good young defensive core still. So I'm not looking at their defensive core and being like, oh, that guy's a stud. But they got a lot of guys that are above average. So when you can have that many guys out there that are above average playing, generally a good thing.
All right. Thanks for the Hockey Talk, Getz. Thanks for popping in. And please don't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
All right.
I really appreciate you having me.
All right. Hoppy, you sticking around for a little bit? Or you got to roll?
I can, but I got to get going in a bit. Yeah.
Okay, we'll sort that out in the break. Scott Barney coming up with the Humboldt Broncos, and Dave Patrician, the sports doctor from Winnipeg. He is the parade marshal of the Grey Cup Parade in Winnipeg in late November. They're already planning it. It's the Rod Pedersen Show. We'll be right back on Facebook Live and rodpedersen.com.
One of the things that I'm also running into lately is people who have been declined for marijuana use in the past.
Brian Baker with youareinsurable.ca.
Insurers will decline you for more than just your health. They'll decline you for your lifestyle. And in the past, any type of marijuana use over 2 grams a week is going to send red flags up to traditional insurers, because for those people who are suffering from chronic pain, other illnesses such as Crohn's colitis, or depression for that matter, that have used marijuana as a treatment, they're probably using more than a couple of grams a week. Now we have legalized marijuana in the country, but don't expect the traditional insurers to have made that change to their underwriting policy. But I do have an insurer that will take care of the client.
If you've been declined due to cannabis, you are still insurable. Don't wait, talk to Brian today. Brian specializes in finding critical illness, life, and disability insurance for hard-to-insure people just like you. Book your no-cost, confidential, risk-free consultation at youareinsurable.ca.
Locally owned and family operated. Emerald Water, refreshing the Rod Pedersen Show. From reverse osmosis to natural alkaline and distilled water, they are perfect for your home and office. Saskatchewan's #1 source for commercial alkaline with natural electrolytes and minerals that are better for your body. Naturally occurring magnesium, calcium, bicarbonate, and potassium are amazing for your health. Trust 30 years of experience and drink water that matters from Emerald Water.
Sports Talk on Demand. Head to rodpeterson.com to access all of the content you may have missed or want to hear again. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
Hey, it's hour 2 of the Rod Pedersen Show. Welcome, everybody. We are live, originating from beautiful Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, on Facebook Live and audio-only feed at rodpeterson.com. Big thank you to our hour 1 guests. Couple of Rider Hall of Famers, Jim Hopson and Chris Getzlaf. We're moving in the second seating, and I'll get to that in a moment. Sports update this morning. The Saskatchewan Roughriders announcing this morning that going into the Plaza of Honor, our Hall of Fame this June, will be Kerry Joseph and Neil Hughes. So congratulations to both those guys, and we'll work on getting them on the show. Riders falling in the preseason last night, 35-29 to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now, next up, cuts for the Riders. They have to be announced by 8 p.m. Saturday night, and then the Riders open the season Thursday in Hamilton against the Ticats. Elsewhere in the CFL last night, Dakota Prukop's pass to Cole Watson in the fourth quarter led the Argos to a 30-23 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in CFL preseason play, and Antonio Pipkin and Vernon Adams Jr. each threw a touchdown as the Alouettes tied the Ottawa Red Blacks 20-20. St. Louis Blues a win away from their first Stanley Cup. David Perron scored a controversial goal in the third period as the Blues beat the Bruins 2-1 in Boston for a 3-2 series lead, and they look to wrap it up at home Saturday night in St. Louis. Just ahead of our guests, our poll question today on our Twitter feed at Rod Pedersen Show is, did Isaac Harker earn a spot on the Riders last night? He was the backup quarterback who looked pretty good, backing up Zach Collaros last night. 92.3% of respondents saying yes, he has made the team. 7.7% saying no, and that might be the family of David Watford that's voting no, the guy that Harker's trying to beat out to be the backup to Zach Collaros in the number 3 quarterback spot. Your comment?
Rod Pedersen on Demand. For more of the Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpeterson.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.